I've been alone for what seems like forever. Try to hold it together, but I'm losing my grip. I need someone who can make me feel better. Wrap me up in a sweater, treat my pain with a kiss. Then suddenly you are here, inside my head, everywhere. Where did you come from? I'm wondering, baby, are you made up of for real? Say, can you feel what I feel? 'Cause I can tell if I'm just dreaming. I wish I had a girl like you, and wish you could be real, but you're not really here. And I don't wanna wake up without you, but tonight is gonna have to do. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, I fade away. Every day you're not with me. Maybe now that you've showed me what love could be like, what can I say? I know it sounds like I'm crazy, but I need to believe in you to get through my life. Then suddenly you are here, inside my head, everywhere. Where did you come from? I'm wondering, baby, are you made up of for real? Say, can you feel what I feel? 'Cause I can tell if I'm just dreaming. I wish I had a girl like you, and wish you could be real, but you're not really here. And I don't wanna wake up without you, but tonight is gonna have to do. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. I don't wanna wake up without you, but tonight is gonna have to do. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you. Then suddenly you are here, inside my head, everywhere. Where did you come from? I'm wondering, baby, are you made up of for real? Say, can you feel what I feel? 'Cause I can tell if I'm just dreaming. I wish I had a girl like you, and wish you could be real, but you're not really here. And I don't wanna wake up without you, but tonight is gonna have to do. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you, girl like you, girl like you. I don't wanna wake up without you, but tonight is gonna have to do. If I'm gonna get with a girl like you. When I look at you like that, you lose it completely. Losing track of space and time. I don't wanna go home looking for a reason to stay here all night. I wonder, do you feel it too? Magic between me and you, the way that you make me feel. You wonder if I feel the same, the blood's rushing through your veins. And then when I say your name, bet I'm everything you see. Bet I'm everything you need. We're high on this feeling, don't wanna come down. Just go on and tell me, get into my eyes. I'm everything you need, need. You need. I'm everything you need. You usually don't share any secrets. Suddenly you're an open book. When I struggle to find the words, you get me complete. same. Your blood's rushing through your veins, and then when I say your name, bet I'm everything you see. Bet I'm everything you need. We're high on this feeling, don't wanna come down. Just go on and tell me, get into my eyes. I'm everything you need. You need. I'm everything you need. Everything you need. You need. I'm everything you need. I'm everything you need. You need. I'm everything you need. Bet I'm everything you see. Bet I'm everything you need. We're high on this feeling, don't wanna come down. Just go on and tell me, get into my eyes. I'm everything you see. Bet I'm everything you need. We're high on this feeling, don't wanna come down. Just go on and tell me, get into my eyes. I'm everything you need. I'm a mess. Don't know how I got here, but I'm blessed. Didn't know it'd take me past my destiny. You're behind me with the rest, 'cause I'm a mess. No more you.
And I go home. You said things could only get better. I needed more than ever. They don't go. How can I believe you when everything is secret? Everything is secret. Everything is secret. Everything is secret. How can I believe it when everything is secret? You see through, gotta make space for the new you, like I'm old news in your rearview mirror. It must be nice, you went and got a penthouse, all your friends partying is real loud. Brand new money with a brand new chest, still a baby bird price straight off the nest like you. Said things could only get better. I need it more than ever. They don't.